Good morning or good afternoon, depending where you are in the country. Welcome to our webinar, our latest Maximizing Your Membership webinar. Of course, today we're focusing on those of you who are importers and some pretty big changes that are coming to Canada's importing system called CARM. And so we are very pleased today to have some special guests joining us. But before we get to all of that, just wanted to give a bit of a reminder. We do have a copy of the presentation in the chat. So if you want to download your presentation in the chat, please do so. You can take a look at it there. And I see Edwin has already beat me to it. Hello, Edwin, and they said hello to us. Back at you. My name is Corinne Pullman. I am the Executive Vice President of Advocacy at CFIB, and I'm based here in Ottawa, and I'd love to hear where all of you are coming from. So if you want to throw that into the chat. At the same time as you're doing that, just a reminder that if you have a question, we do want you to put them in the Q&A. So you'll see on the bottom both the Q&A and the chat are down there. So please put your questions in the Q&A, but you're welcome to have chats in the chat as well. And look at all the folks coming in from across the country, Halifax, Kitchener, Mission, Victoria, Yellowknife. So you got some folks from the north, London, Chatham, Winnipeg. Oh, it's always so much fun to see all of you folks and where you're coming from right across the country. It's just amazing to see. And I want to welcome all of you today. I think this will be a very informative and very interesting webinar for many of you. And if you're importing, hopefully it will be very helpful as well. If you don't see the downloaded presentation, go to the very end of the chat. You're gonna have to scroll down because now we've filled the chat up with all the folks from across the country. But I did note somebody was asking where is the presentation. So just scroll down. We'll also post the presentation a couple more times as we go through the webinar. All right, moving to the next slide. Today's presenters, I've already introduced myself. I'm Corinne. Great to be here again and talk to all of you. Today, I am joined by my colleague, Michelle Auger. Say hi, Michelle. Turn on your camera, say hello.
Hi, everyone. Hi, sorry.
Michelle is our senior policy analyst here in Ottawa. We've actually worked closely together for a number of years now, so I'm really excited to have her. She's also become our resident expert on CARM here at CFIB. Also in the background is going to be Alicia Lee, who is our acting manager. Many of you who may be repeat folks here may remember Rachel. Rachel is off on parental leave right now, so we've had the great good fortune to have Alicia come in and help us out. So Alicia is a veteran of ours at CFIB. Say hi, Alicia.
Hi, everybody. Happy to be here.
So Alicia is going to help answer questions in the background or maybe pop up here and there because she is, as well has become quite knowledgeable on this entire CARM system. But the special guests today are from Canada Border Services Agency. They will be joining us in a moment. Yael Lespinas and Debbie Bermudez are going to be sharing some of their insights from the CBSA and the CARM project. From there are, of course, the folks that are going to be launching this in the future at CBSA. So they'll be joining us very shortly. But first, I'm going to bring Michelle up. First, we're going to have a bit of an agenda. So we're going to talk a little bit about our perspective on CARM very quickly, just to give you an understanding of why we're doing this. And then we'll bring our special guests up who will take up the bulk of it. And of course, we'll hopefully have some time at the end for your questions, but we'll also try to answer your questions as we go. And now I will bring up Michelle Auger. Over to you, Michelle, for a little bit of context.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'll just take 2 or 3 minutes of your time just to share some of the work and some of the stuff we've been doing on CARM from CFIB's perspective. But some of you may have seen back in late January, we sent out a survey on international trade where we just asked businesses about how they do international trade and some of those trends. And some of the things we found out was that 65% of small businesses are involved in importing, whether that was goods or services into Canada. But in addition to understanding, those international activities that small businesses are doing, we asked a series of questions that related to CARM, and we really wanted to understand how small businesses were using CARM, whether they were registered. And one of the key things that came out of that was the fact that only 25% of small businesses who are currently involved in importing of goods in Canada are registered to CARM. And so why are these numbers so important? Well, we'll go over to our next slide. And The CBSA is moving towards what they're calling CARM. It's an online portal that will essentially help streamline the ways taxes and duties are being collected for the goods that are imported into Canada. And as of October 2024, CARM will become that official system that all importers will have to use in order to get their goods across the border and into Canada. So we think it's so important that small businesses understand CARM, are using it, or getting registered, and that's why we've reached out to the CBSA to host these sessions. And the goal here today is really to provide a step-by-step overview of how to get registered to CARM and some of those key features that are in CARM. And we feel very fortunate that CBSA has put a very thorough and thoughtful presentation for us today on some of those key steps that need to be done in order to get onto CARM. So that being said, I will pass it over to our presenters and we'll get started off on that session. Thank you. Okay, Yael, off to you.
Hello, everyone, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you, Michelle and Corinne, for having us, as well as Alicia. So today we're going to talk about registering your small, medium business on the CARM Client Portal. So let's go see what we have for you in our agenda. The first thing we want to do is help you figure out whether or not you need to register. Then we have a little 5 steps to register and show you how you can actually go through all these steps in the portal. We will talk about delegation of authority if you have a broker, as well as the commercial accounting declaration and a very interesting feature, the release prior to payment. So we will also talk about the CARM cutover period. And we have slides that have additional resources that you will be able to refer to. So let's go to our next slide that explains to us, do you import or buy goods for your business from outside of Canada? So basically, either you do, you may say, yeah, I do that, but I do it with the broker, or I'm not a Canadian importer. I'm outside of Canada, but I import in Canada. This is a good reason to register on CARM. If you don't know, there is a sure way to figure it out. It's through looking at your invoices. If you have invoices and your suppliers are from outside of Canada, that's a sure way of knowing that, yes, you are importing. And but if you're certain that all your goods are being bought within Canada, then yes, CARM will not apply to you today. But you never know, it may change. So might as well stay and learn about it. So in fact, if you say yes to any of the statements that you are importing goods that are going to be used in your business, they're going to be used to make goods, they are going to be resold. They come in just once a year. It's a small amount. You have a customs broker, a courier, all of these good reasons to register on CARM. And also, if you are importing temporarily, if you are in the business of testing, repairing goods, they come in, go back out, you use CARM because CARM will allow you to follow up on your temporary imports. So this is how it's going to happen at the next release. And also if your business would be located outside of Canada. So why are we here today asking you to register now? Well, it's going to help you familiarize yourself with the portal. So basically, you want to know how it works, what to do with it, what is already available to you, like your financial information, making payments. You can already do that. You have also the possibility, or maybe you should, delegate authority to your customs broker if you have one. And we also have the benefit for the release prior to payment. We will be talking about that later. So these are all the good reasons why you need to register now, and we're going to talk about it. So what are the steps? The steps is to first prepare your account information. We have a little tools for that. Then you are going to register. And once you're registered, you grant access to the people who will be working with you on that portal. It's going to be employees, associates, it's going to be your broker if you have one. So we divided it into 5 steps to make it easier, and we're going to give you a very good view of how this works. Let's go. First, you need to identify the person who is going to kind of take charge into your portal. That person is going to be your business account manager, and it's a person who needs to be informed about what happens on a daily basis, as well as being able to work on the portal to provide the accesses, and because that person will have oversight overview on the portal. You need to have your business number, which is the BN9, your import-export number RM1 or 2 or 3 ready for the next step. After that, you are going to create your user profile, which is your personal profile as a user in the CARM portal. We have different options, 2 options we'll show you. Then this is when you are going to use the legal entity name, the physical mailing address of your business. So anyone, not just anyone can be the BAM. The BAM has to be someone who has access to those information and can also answer the security questions, which is the 5th step. So business account manager, that's the role that has the highest level of management access on the portal. This is also the first person who is going to link their personal profile to the BN account. This is the first person who is going to be the BAM. So this is why you need to be careful, verify, decide who is going to be your business account manager before you start the whole process. So we also ask you to make sure you have 2 business account managers. You want to be able to have one being able to replace the other. There are all sorts of leaves, the vacation, retirement options. So you want to make sure that you are covered at least 2 business account managers. Your step 2 is to make sure that you have your business numbers and RM, etc. handy. Your business number, that's the 9-digit number that Canada Revenue Agency gives you to designate your business. So you have different accounts that are related to that. Could be RT, RP, RT for the taxes, RP for payroll, but RM, the 6-digit program identifier that has the letters RM, is the one that's dedicated for import-export. That's the one that CBSA uses. So that's your program account. And we will use the terms BN15 or RM15 to designate your BN9 plus the RM identifier and the 4 other digits. So RM15, BN9, these are the numbers that you need to be sure that you have handy because you're going to use them. The 3rd step is to register your portal. So how do you do that? Is by getting to the CARM Client Portal homepage. CARM Client Portal homepage can be accessed either by the CBSA website, or you use just any search engine, you type CARM Client Portal, we come up, you log in. So the link to log in is in services and information. We also have a link to onboarding documentation. Now, how are you going to create a user profile? There are 2 ways. When you create your user profile, the first thing that we want to do is we want to know who we are communicating with. Who are you? So in order to tell us who you are, you have to use either a sign-in partner or you have to use a GC key. This is how we are going to be able to identify you. So when you work with the sign-in partner, the sign-in partner is the bank that you as a person use to do your personal banking. So your personal bank, you select the bank, then you're gonna go to their link, to their page, where you identify yourself the same way that you would log into your bank, but you don't log into your bank. It's just to be verified. And once you are verified through your bank's login, you are redirected to CBSA CARM page. So it's just verifying your identity. CBSA is never going to go into your bank account. We don't see it. We don't get any information. It's just identification. And it is especially your personal bank, because remember, you're being identified as a person. If it was if you use your company bank, it will still identify you, but it may muddy the waters a bit. You may not be able, for example, let's say that you have a login to your business bank that is not a personal login to the business bank, then it could be a problem. So let's go to the next slide to have the GC key. GC key is another way of identifying you. You don't use your social insurance number. You use directly your personal information. If you already have a GC key, you can just use the GC key that you have, or you're going to sign up for another one. If you have a GC key that you use for Canada Revenue Agency, this one cannot be used for any other government department. But if you have a GC key for maybe Transport Canada, you can use the same to identify yourself and be then creating your profile on the CARM client portal. After that, once you have identified yourself through sign-in partner or GC key, you have the last step to secure your account, which is the multi-factor authentication. You have to type your email address. Make sure you provide an email address that you have access to readily. So this is where we send you an email with a number, and as usual, as all other multi-factor authentication, you get authenticated with that number that you receive in your email. It's the same for every type, all of these types of instances, and it's the best to use your work email address if you are at work, because this is where you're going to get the email. You don't want to have your personal email address receiving all your work stuff. So once you've done all that security thing, you get here and you have to finish up your profile. That's where you're going to put everything else, like type your name, phone number, address, your email address. Once again, better set up your business info. And this is what will help you continue. So once you have made, you have created your personal profile, very careful. Any email that you type in here is the email that will provide you all the rest that will be used for everything else. So all the notifications, everything is going to be sent to that email address that you put in your personal profile. So just make sure that you have access to that address when you work. So we're here, first time set up. Your personal profile is finished. You have two options when you get to that page. You can either request access to your employer or register your business. That's the right-hand side. Very careful. The right-hand side, register my business, is where the BAM, Business Account Manager, the person who's going to be in charge, that's where this person is going to click first. And also, as a note, make sure that if you have multiple BN9s, you will need to have multiple profiles, because one profile takes you directly to one BN9. So let's say that we are the business account manager. We are the first person registering the account. We click on register my business. So now remember, we asked you to put aside your BN9. This is where you indicated. We asked you also to make sure you had an importer program reference number. You are going to indicate it here as well. Now, if you have several RM accounts, be careful to choose one for which you will have information to answer the security questions. Michelle, do you have a question for me?
Yes, thank you, Yael. I'm seeing a lot of questions around where to get an RM number. Where can a business find that number? And if they don't have one, where can they apply for one? So a few questions around that.
Okay, if you are an importer, you already have an RM number. Where you can find it is any document, any importing document that you have, the B3 importing form. Your RM number will be there somewhere at the top. I believe in the next slides, we have a picture in front of we have a picture of a B3. I will make sure that I show it to you. And your RM number would look like your RT number or your RC number or your RP number. But RT, RC, RP are to work with CRA for the different taxes, GST, income tax, or the taxes that you will deduct from your employee's paycheck. Now, the RM is the one that your customs broker would use or that you use when you put on your B3 if you are importing goods. There are situations where you may be importing and you are not really using your RM account. However, as you are a business, if you are importing, this is going to change. You will have our email address. Don't hesitate to send us questions that are particular to your situations so that we can help you in particular, because we may not go into details for everyone here. But you will see on the B3 form that we're going to show you in the next 1 or 2 slides, you will see where the RM number is located, so you can look for it on your documentation. If you do not have an RM number, today you can contact Canada Revenue Agency and they will provide you with one. Now, step 4 is to enter all the information regarding the BN. So that means your legal name or your operating name and the full physical mailing address. Now, that information that you're typing has to be the same as the information that is in Canada Revenue Agency's files regarding your BN, because this is how we are going to match it. And this is how we are going to verify that you are that you have access to that information. So if you type information, you get an error message. You should verify with CRA, with your CRA information. Maybe you had a change of address, maybe you moved and your change of address was not made on all your CRA information. So this is something that you can validate. Okay, here is our B3. We talked about the RM account. So you see, if you can see, I'm sure you can see because I can see Box 1, upper left-hand side corner, you have importer name and address, and then you have number. Where that number is, this is where you will see your RM account. And next to it, you have the transaction number. And this is the number that you would use for one of the questions. So the security questions, there are 3 security questions that the system could ask you. But the system will only ask you questions that have an answer. So if the answer does not exist, there will not be a question for it. So let's say you are a new importer, then the answers don't exist. You will not have that step. If you import goods that are duty-free and tax exempt, then the system will not ask you for a payment because you will not have a payment. So rest assured that if the system is asking you a question, then the answer exists and you can find it in the documents that you have. So it's going to be either a B3, like the one that's showing here, transaction number, and all the way at the bottom, you have duties and taxes, the total paid. So this is an example. And if you use the services of a customs broker, they can help you find the information, but also the customs broker sends you this information. So every time they work on your behalf, it is their duty to send you a complete package of the work they did. So in your documentation, in your filing cabinets, you are going to find this. But the good thing is that when CARM is on the portal and everything is live, within a few years, all your information will be on the portal. You will not need that big filing cabinet anymore because you will not be working with paper. So we are coming back to that first time setup. When we were here earlier, we talked about the BAM, the business account manager, and that it was important that it's a person who has access to all the good information that can register the business. Now, all the other people, including that second business account manager that you want to register, everybody else will go to request access to my employer. You will give them the business, the BN9 number, and they will indicate it there. And the first person who registered, meaning the BAM, will then be receiving notification that they have information in the portal waiting for them. And when they go to the portal, they will find the access requests so that they can act on them. So the different access requests, they will be able to provide either a reader access, an editor access, or another business account manager access. And also, if you have several RM accounts, you may want to have a person responsible for each RM account independently. So you would have what's called a program account manager, a person who has all power, but only on one program account. So on one RM account on your BN9. So this is the first time setup. But all the things that I'm saying here, they are all part of our onboarding documentation that you will have access to with the links to our CBSA internet page for CARM. So now we're going to talk about delegation of authority. And to do that, it's going to be Debbie. But before, Corinne, I see that you're here. You may have questions.
I do. Just quickly before we move on to Debbie, there are a few questions around whether if you get all your deliveries through Canada Post, for example, do you still have to register for CARM? That's a question that's come up a few times.
No, because everything that's related to Canada Post already has their own system, and it's working separately.
Okay.
So Canada Post is a no, but
Okay.
courier As a business, that's a yes.
And so if you use multiple couriers or multiple brokers, do you have to then designate the authority to them, or how does that work? And
Well,
that's
Debbie will take that one, but
okay.
I will give, no, I will give the punch. You can delegate authority to as many service providers as you need. So if your business works with several, they will all request, and then you will be able to give them. But Debbie has something very interesting regarding having several service providers. That punch I will not give.
Okay, and my last question has to do with the GC key versus
Mhm.
some people are talking about, well, they've already signed up with the GC key with their business banking. Should they go back and change it? You're saying it could be a
No,
bit
they
more
don't need to.
complicated, but they can just leave it as is.
They can
Okay.
leave it as is, because if they were able to do it, it means that they are set in a way that allows them to have their personal access to the bank. Okay. What we need, because if several people are using the same access to a bank, what it does is that it compromises your access to CARM.
Yeah.
Okay. But at the same time, it is a business decision. You as a business will need to revise how your security works. If it works for you, then that's your business decision.
Okay.
But just make sure that it works within the security risks that your business wants in place.
Okay. My last question before we turn over to Debbie is somebody was asking about some of them have their vendors that pay the duty and taxes for them. Does the vendor then have to go through this process or them? So that's another question that's coming.
Okay. If you remember in the slide with the decision tree, we were talking about the non-resident importer.
Correct.
So your vendor from outside of Canada, if they are the ones taking care of everything, then they are what we call a non-resident importer. They are the ones who should register for CARM. So what we would ask you to do, give them a nudge, give them our email address, send them to us, and we will make sure that they are registered, and we will probably have webinars for non-resident importers. So we will call all of these nice people to a webinar and make sure we explain to them everything they need to know.
Perfect. Thank you. We can move on to Debbie.
Thank you, Debbie.
Hello, everyone. Let me just get this set up here. Video at some point. I promise I'm requesting it. Let's see if I switch screen scenes.
We can
My
see
goodness.
You,
can you see me?
We can see you and hear you fine in both directions. Yeah.
Amazing. Then if I look ridiculous, it's because I can't see myself, and that's good enough. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. And I have to admit, though, I was just texting or messaging my team. I now feel a little bit of pressure to make delegation of authority a bit more punchy. So let's see if I can deliver that. Let's go to the next slide. Now, as Yael was talking about allocating access to your employees, that is, of course, a request that they submit in the portal requesting access from the BAM of your company. We're going to switch over. We're going to look at how do you provide access to your service providers. And most specifically, we're going to be talking about how do you provide access to your customs brokers if that is what you wish to do. So delegation of authority is how we refer to affording authority or access to a broker to your business profile in the CARM client portal. You're going to notice a few things here on the screen that you're looking at the top right. You're able to identify which RM account you're actually working in. So as Yael was talking, and I think we've probably talked about it a few times, you are able to have a business with multiple program accounts. So you may have an RM 0001, RM 0002, etc. At the top right, you are able to toggle between whichever accounts you are looking to work on or request access to. If you're going to look at the bottom section here where it says manage my business relationships, and it's in a blue rectangle, this is the area where if you as the business owner, the importer, would like to go in and approve those business relationships, like for example, accepting a connection with a broker, then that is the area you're going to pop in there, and you're going to review those requests from the brokers. Now, just as we were talking about, what if you're an importer and you work with multiple different brokers? Well, we're going to talk about on the next slide what we call visibility attributes or visibility rules. And that is going to be how you determine for your business what kind of visibility you'd like to afford each of the brokers that you work with. So let's take a quick look at delegation of authority and visibility attributes. There are three primary levels of accessibility or attributes, I guess, that you can apply to the relationship that you accept with any of the brokers that you work with. So the first one is, I'm going to work with you and I'd like to have the ability for you as my broker, or we'll say broker number one or broker A, to access and to have visibility just for the transactions that are related to the work that you do on my behalf. So for example, Courier ABC, they're the brokerage that works with them, and they submit all of the transactions related to goods that are coming through that one courier company. Now, you may provide those kind of, that level of accessibility to any of the brokers that work on your behalf from a variety of different courier companies or different service or cargo providers. However, you're also able to provide another level of access to a broker. You can have them having access to the transactions they've submitted, as well as access to any of the transactions or any of the processes that maybe you have initiated on your own behalf in a portal. And then the next one, which would be your highest level of access provided to a third-party service provider or a customs broker, is full access to everything in your business profile. Quite often when we talk about what this kind of looks like is you are the BAM, but you're going to be providing pretty well near equivalent access to that broker, so they're able to do as much as possible within the portal on your behalf. Now, one of the tips we included here is actually a really important tip. Quite often, especially as we're getting comfortable working in the portal and working in the portal in tandem with our brokers providing service, is you want to make sure that you're very clear about the services that your broker is going to continue to provide for you come post R2, or we're looking at October 2024, where full CARM functionality becomes available. So we just say, you know what, have that conversation. As the importer, you get to determine exactly what level of visibility any of those brokers that you work with have, and it's a business decision based on what are the best needs for your business. However, you also want to be clear about what services they're going to be providing post R2. Some brokers will not be providing services like paying on your behalf, but from our experience, the majority will. So if this is a service you'd like to have with your broker, talk to them and ensure that you guys are both on the same page in terms of what services are going to be tied to that contract agreement. Let's take a quick look at what the CARM client portal actually looks like. Beautiful. Now, this, of course, is a mock-up. We're not showing anyone's profile here, but this is a wonderful kind of a walkthrough about a one-stop view that we have in the portal as a business profile owner or worker. So we're going to look at three primary kind of focuses on this page. And the first one is number one, it's in blue, and it's delegation of authority. This is this blue area. It looks at two different areas. So number one, within that setup of the portal is where you're going to be looking at managing these accesses. So if you've got employees and third-party service providers that have access, you can manage the access there. If you're going to visually look down to the bottom right under access requests, now on this mockup, you're going to see pending employee requests, and there's going to be 6. This is where you're going to go in if your employees have requested access to start working in the portal on your behalf. Then this is where you're going to go in and say, okay, yes, employee Emily will be granted access to function as an editor within the profile. So on the bottom right is your employee, and up on the top left is going to be those business relationships with third-party service providers. Number 2, it's kind of in the green, and that accounting overview and payment processing. And every time we talk about this screen, I know I sound like a broken record, but this is actually one of my favorite parts of the portal. And the main reason is it affords so much transparency to the importing community. For so many years, we do our best and you're going to submit your entries and you're trying to keep on top of things. But in terms of real-time understanding of what your business with the CBSA is looking like, there's almost always kind of a delay because access to real-time transaction history up to this point hasn't been possible. And with the CARM client portal, it is now possible. So this is what we call recent transactions on the screen, or we say it's your full transaction history. And the exciting part is it's in real time. So you're going to have a much clearer view of what your business looks like in terms of the business you're conducting with the CBSA to move forward and make just fantastic business decisions, of course. So we're going to look at number 3, and it's kind of like a beigey, orangey, brownie kind of option. And what I'd like you to focus on here is with rulings. Now, this is an option that's actually already available in the portal, and it's been available for a little while. So, for example, like if you have been importing goods that are routinely imported, have been imported into Canada for many years, quite likely you've been able to identify the correct classification code. If there's an origin determination, meaning which country of origin would be applied to determine duties and taxes and all those great things, most likely you kind of have an idea. However, often we've got importers who are like, I found this amazing product and I can't figure out how to classify it. Well, there's a tool in the portal as well, which is wonderful for most just regular importers. But if you're not able to get to a determination, like a clear belief that this is the correct classification or the correct determination of origin, or a number of other items that would function or be determined by a formal request from CBSA, then this is the area where you are going to manage those rulings or those applications. So I'm going to focus just for ease of discussion. Scenario, you've got this incredibly new product and it's exciting and you want to bring it in, but you're not sure how you would classify it. You've gone through the tools and we're not really 100% sure. You as an importer and a few other trade partners have the ability to make an application requesting a formal determination on what that classification should be. Now, the power of having a formal determination means it provides you documentation from CBSA, the trade department, and it says, we have confirmed that this is the classification code. And with a clear classification code, you're able to apply that information in any of your business dealings, and it will help you determine and plan ahead for what duties and taxes may be required. Very, very powerful, as well as any other kind of supporting documentation. Now, for example, you've set up this submission and you're requesting a determination to be made by the CBSA on your behalf. And I see something popped up here. An HS code is your classification code, your harmonized system code. So what you've submitted it through the portal, whether you've done it or a broker has done it on your behalf. And you kind of want to see what's going on. Have they requested more information? Do they have a decision for you? Well, you're going to pop into your CARM client portal. And you're going to look under rulings, just visually look down in the middle, in the center. And according to this profile layout, ongoing ruling requests, meaning that this importer has 4 ongoing requests, but that also tells you that those requests have been seen and accepted by officers. They're currently being worked on, and it's a good hint for you to go in and see. Maybe they need some information. So it's a really, really efficient way for us to kind of establish that communication with our trade department in a very real-time manner. So again, a wonderful opportunity to do this kind of work in the portal. We are going to go over, and I'd like to start talking about a commercial accounting declaration, or what's going to commonly become known as a CAD. So we're going to move into not the next screen, but the right next screen, because I love this screen. Now, currently today, we submit B3-3s or business entries. We more commonly refer to them as B3s. You also will be submitting items such as B2s or an adjustment request. Come R2, so at this point after October 2024, both of those processes are going to be replaced with submissions that can take place directly in the portal via CAD. Oh, 1 second, sorry. And what's exciting about that is it's going to affect, I just have a note and I apologize. Okay, perfect. Just a reminder that I'm always a little bit too chatty, and I appreciate that. Okay, so it's going to be replaced in October by an electronic CAD, which is a process or a declaration or an entry that you can make right in the portal. You will no longer, after this point, after October 2024 need to submit multiple paper submissions or requests for adjustments, those kind of adjustments can happen directly in the portal, much faster. And we're hoping again for that real-time kind of communication piece between yourself and the CBSA. Now, one of the things that keeps coming up, I think both for your membership as well as questions that we're getting for our part and at our ports of entry is, okay, well, I'm an importer who, they keep calling me a C-type importer. I'm a cash type importer. Now, these are the types of importers who either at the port of entry, maybe you drive across the border into the US and you're bringing your commercial goods back and you stop at that CBSA office. You're like, hey, I'm going to do an entry today. What you would normally do is you would physically enter the office. You would go to what you've commonly heard called the CSEPS machine. You would complete your B3-3 or your B3 form. You'd pair it up with all your supporting documentation like invoices and such, and you'd present that documentation to the Border Services Officer. They'd review, and if it's all good to go in terms of release requirements, then the second step is you pay duties and taxes. We call this a cash type client because you pay cash right on the spot to allow immediate release. So this is what we do today. Come R2 or after October 2024, it's pretty well the same with one slight difference and one incredible improvement. Number one, you're going to present yourself at that port of entry. Number two, you will still need to print out some kind of a document, which would be your declaration. But whereas today it's a B3, after October, it's going to be that CAD that we were just discussing. Now that CAD will be completed or can be completed right in the portal. And you're able to print this out. And then once it's printed out, you can pair it up with that support documentation and submit it in person to the Border Services Officer. And the same process continues. As a note, we're just talking about when you're driving back into Canada at a land port of entry, but this same process is a cash type client, takes place at a number of different inland commercial offices with CBSA as well, where you just present yourself and say, I want to pay my duties and taxes and do my entry right now. And that can be for courier and other cargo formats, I guess. It's kind of great. We're going to move on and we're going to talk about that release prior to payment program. Now, what's nice about release prior to payment, and usually what's kind of a surprise for some importers, is that they maybe don't even know that it exists. And what happens now is, are we able to advance the screen possibly? Beautiful, and one more. Gorgeous, thank you. Okay, so the release prior to payment program. Now, this is a program which has been in place with the CBSA for a very long time, but a number of importers are just learning that it even exists. So this RPP program, or release prior to payment program, what it means is it allows you as an importer to receive your goods immediately when they come in. That release happens, it gets delivered to your warehouse, to your business, or wherever you need it to go. And you're afforded the ability to pay your duties and taxes after, so a couple days after. And the reason that a lot of times importers love this program, or haven't realized that they knew they were part of this program, but they love this service, is that if you have a lot of turnover, or you require like same day delivery or within a very short period of time access to these commercial goods, it's a wonderful program that makes this possible. Now, up to this point, a number of importers are like, well, I've never had to be part of it, and I've always had my goods delivered immediately. Well, up until this point, CBSA has always allowed importers working with a broker to take advantage and to use the broker's financial security, meaning the broker's access and registration in the RPP program. Now, come R2, we are now asking that anyone who would like to benefit from the RPP program, that they will submit and they will determine their own financial security. And that doesn't mean that the broker cannot still work with them. Of course they can. Hence that delegation of authority, but they will be using the importer's own financial security as opposed to using the broker's, which has been in place for a long time. Now, we have one thing to make this transition a little bit easier, and we refer to it as the RPP transition period. How handy, isn't it? So what this is to give benefit to all importers. Now, if you are an importer, say today, and you have good standing and you have good history of importing with the CBSA for goods coming into Canada, then you will be afforded the ability, pardon me, to benefit from the RPP program, but within this transition period. This transition period will last from the date of go live, which will be soon, we'll find out hopefully sometime in October, to last 180 days. Now, if you are currently an importing entity in Canada, then as long as you get registered in the portal, once we go live, you will have the access to that RPP program automatically afforded to your profile, your business profile in the portal, up to 180 days. Now, the purpose this is being afforded, is to assist, to make this transition as easy as possible. But the second piece is, as we're all getting used to working in the portal, 180 days will also give you time to establish that relationship and to get financial security in place. We have a little note there. If you are an entirely new importer and you register in the portal after R2, which is not going to be the individuals here on this webinar most likely, then do not worry, there are still other mechanisms to allow this to happen. Okay, let's move on because I can already see people are excited. What is this financial security? What are we doing? Let's talk about posting financial security. Now, there are two different ways to post financial security. The first one is we call cash security or a deposit. Now, this deposit is something, it's a deposit that the importer is able to make directly on the CARM client or the CCP portal. This is a guarantee against your importer debt. The only people involved in this relationship or in this agreement is yourself, the importer, and the money that you put into that, into the portal itself to allow you to link it to the RPP program. Now, if you find that you want to do it because you want to be nice and organized, but then you end up finding that, you know what, yourself or one of your employees actually tends to go and picks up a lot of your commercial goods in the US and can just do their entries upon entry every single time, and you do not require the program, you can pull yourself out and withdraw from the RPP program, and that deposit will automatically be refunded directly to your importer account. Okay, so that's cash security or a deposit. The second option you have to post financial security is called a written security agreement. Now, a written security agreement is an agreement that exists between an importer and a financial security provider. This agreement exists outside of the portal. Once you come to an agreement, then there are two ways to make sure that CBSA is A, aware that this agreement exists, and B, is able to link it to your RPP program. Now, the first is if you're, I see a face, give me 1 second, I'm going to pop in there. The first way that you can do it is actually if your financial security provider is able to communicate directly with the CBSA, and we call it an interface. It's your API. I'm sure most of us have heard of it in some way. It's basically it's an electronic interface which allows your financial security provider to communicate directly with the CBSA, and they say, hey, for this importer, I'm able to post this bond, or this is their security agreement, and then we can connect it. Now, the second way, if your security provider does not have that link or that capability, it is just fine. Your importer, you as the importer, can submit the information in the portal, and then the CBSA team will connect with that security provider and verify that the information provided is correct. Yes, please come on up.
So a couple of questions. One
Sure.
is there's a few questions around whether you can set up a credit card to automatically charge, or does it have to be a cash bond? Can it be a credit card on file? Is credit card an option?
Credit card is not an option, unfortunately, at this point. These are the options that we have, is cash security or this written security agreement. Now, there are a few alternatives in terms of paying options, things like a pad and stuff, but that's more going to be tied to paying for your transactions and the duties and taxes required. For this financial security, these are the amounts, or these are the abilities afforded to us at this point.
And then another question is, who are financial security providers? What are you meaning? Are they banks?
Some of them are banks. Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, it depends on which province you're at. There are other providers which are in existence. We do have some resources on that. I'm actually going to make a little note. I cannot give you a set list. We get that request all the time. Where's my list? Can you give me a list? We don't have that, but we do have the regulations that need to be met that CBSA will review. And they actually have a wonderful little link and a little bit of an information package. So you can kind of go in as an importer and determine maybe who you'd like to work with. So I'll have a little note for myself, and we can send that along with our information package.
Great. I will let you be, but just a reminder, there's only like 3 minutes or so left.
I'm always so chatty. Thank you so much for the reminder. I appreciate it. I'll be quick but efficient. Okay, let's move on, folks. Now we're going to be looking at calculating financial security. Now, this is actually a pretty easy baseline to look at. If you're going to be doing that cash security deposit, you're going to be looking at the last 12 months of business that you've completed and your highest monthly accounts receivable, duties and taxes included. There is no minimum. So if you are an importer who routinely pays $400, $500 a month on duties and taxes, your accounts receivable, then the likelihood is that within that amount, it will be your highest in the last 12 months. That's most likely what the system will assign for you to deposit. If you are going to go the other way and complete a written security agreement, then you will be called to post 50% of your highest monthly accounts receivable that have occurred in the last 12 months. Now, just as a heads up, you need to have a minimum of $5,000 submitted no matter what, and a maximum of $10 million per RM importer account. Want to take 2 minutes just to look at cutover? Beautiful. So we are going to be looking at preparing coming up to October. This is a little ways away. So we are very much focused right now on getting everyone registered and understanding what the system or the process is going to look like. However, just prior to when we go live, or R2, we're calling it, there's going to be a period of where we're referring it to cutover, and it's to allow the CBSA systems to migrate completely to all of the new systems and close down the older systems that will then be retired during that time period. And we'll have lots more information coming closer to October of this, I promise. This is where you're not going to be having access to the portal to function within it, but we've got other transition options available at that time. And a few of the other systems will not be available, but they already have systems in place for us to work during that period and ensure that accounting is maintained and secured. The biggest thing we want to highlight here, though, we're aware that this is going to be a bit of a crunchy transition over, and we're going to do everything we can to support importers with all of the information and support. But in awareness and acknowledgement of that, the CBSA has already claimed and stated and guaranteed there are not going to be late accounting penalties issued during that cutover period and for a period of time following. So there's a lot of support coming our way. We have a ton of resources, but you know what, folks? You're going to be getting this entire package, this entire deck. We've made sure that any of the links here are hyperlinks and they're all functioning, and we have a lot of wonderful resources available. Again, I will be sending, and I have a little note to send a little bit of further information for those surety providers, but if there's anything else you're looking for, always reach out. We're more than happy to support.
Thank you, Debbie. We want to just, I know we have very little time left, but I
Sure.
think it's important to say, a lot of people think that when you talked about the $5,000, that you were talking about them having to put up $5,000, but I don't think that's the case. It's actually the amount of the bond is a minimum of $5,000, but the actual amount you end up paying to get that bond, if I understand correctly, is quite a bit less. Is that correct, Debbie?
Perfect. That's exactly it. No, thanks for asking that. So that's going to be determined by your contract and agreement with that surety provider. And that's exactly it.
Yeah, it is more likely to be a few $100s, not
Exactly.
a few $1,000s, but the amount of the bond will be $5,000. So I just want to clarify that because I think a few folks were a bit confused if they had to put up $5,000. You don't.
Perfect.
You put up a few hundred just to sort of get a bond that then is worth up to $5,000. So
Perfect.
Michelle, did you have a question you wanted to jump in on?
Yeah, there are a couple comments around confusion between CBSA launching the CARM portal around May 13th versus
yes.
October 2024. And so we probably should have communicated that a little bit better right from the outset, but in fact, there has been a bit of a delay with the launch of the official CARM portal. Which we welcome because given the rates at which small businesses are registered, this gives small businesses a lot more time to learn the system and get registered for October 2024, sorry.
Yeah. And my last question before we shut this all down, Debbie, is that
Sure.
there are some questions around, some people say they already have their bonds, but they don't know how to post or upload it to CARM, or that they're being advised that there's up to 90 days to have a bond approved by CBSA. Is that still the case? So just a little bit about that, if you can take 30 seconds.
Yeah, of course, of course. So, in terms of submitting a bond right now for the purposes of RPP, if you were doing it outside of the portal, that 90 days sounds to be about a reasonable processing time. However, this is happening outside of the portal. It's not going to benefit you with that RPP program transition period or anything within the portal at all, because we're not currently functioning or submitting CADs in the portal right now. The best recommendation we have is figure out who you're going to be working with, figure out how much approximately you're going to expect to need to put up, and then post R2, post that date in October 2024. That availability within the portal will become available to all importers.
Great. Okay. Just finishing up a comment here. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Yael. We really appreciate your insights. Quick update on a couple of the webinars that are coming up. If you have a chance, please check them out. April 30th, Economic Outlook with our Chief Economist, Simon Gaudreau, will also be touching on the recent federal budget. So it may be worth, if you're curious about some of the changes that were announced and how we're reacting to them, please register for that on April 30th. And then on May 16th, we're going to be doing something on workplace wellness. So those are a couple that are coming up in the next few weeks. Other than that, just a quick reminder too, if you enjoyed this or you felt this was a helpful webinar, think about please referring a member to us. We can always, the more members we have, the more clout we have and the more ability we have to get and push for changes that'll benefit you as a business. So please click on the link and refer a member if you have anybody who isn't. And with that, I'm going to turn to see if Michelle, if you had any final thoughts you wanted to share before we shut this one down.
Yeah, well, thanks everyone for being here today. And as we said from the outset, any of the outstanding questions that may not have been addressed, we will certainly try to get to you. And if you need more information or have more questions, be sure to call Business Resources. The number's right there on the slide, and they can certainly help you navigate through registering with CARM.
Yeah, and so I'm sure this won't be the last time we're going to talk about CARM. We're hoping to perhaps bring folks back in a couple months as we get further along. But please give us a call or give CBSA a call if you're having problems, and we'll do our best to answer as many questions as we can. Thank you again for joining us today. And with that, we will close. Oh, and thank you to our presenters once again. And with that, we will close the webinar.